Did it come on? I think we're good. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Final Boss Podcast, episode number 26. As we continue our discussion, we have started a series of Who is Behind the Mask, where we review cult classic movies that have an impact on our culture and that are showing parallels of reality and what Hollywood is trying to portray. Tonight's movie we're going to be discussing with the sensei, Big Mike, Manchurian Candidate. It's a 2004 film starring Denzel Washington, Liv Schreiber, Meryl Streep, John Voight, and Jeffrey Wright. Some of my favorite actors in Hollywood. It's an all-star cast, real heavy hitters. And this movie is a heavy hitter. It's pretty scary if you think about it. If you're able to look at the movie and dissect it, it's a really scary movie. It highlights, and its plot is about evolving, brainwashing, political manipulation, and the concept of identity. And with that being said, I'm gonna give the floor to Big Mike so we can get into it. So, Mike.
All right. So, whenever I look at these movies, I like to look and see what the parallels are and how we can relate to other things that we understand and know about. And there's a very, very distinct parallel in this movie and some computer technology, because I'm all about the technology. So in the movie Manchurian Candidate, there's people are brainwashed and doing something against their will, and it is a trigger word that sets them off to go do it, and then they don't even remember what they did when they're done. So that's the concept in a short term. But in computers, we have these things that are called Easter eggs, and it's not just computers, but it's in games, it's in many things. Some of the TVs we have, hardware we have. So an Easter egg is a hidden series of keystrokes or commands that you give your system, and then it will do something which is extra, like entertaining. So back in the day, we had Microsoft had Excel 97, and you could follow a series of keystrokes, and inside the program was a flight simulator. So you could actually use your mouse and fly around in this little underground world. That was a completely hidden program inside of another program. Microsoft Word had this called the Halls of Doom, and you could go walking around the Halls of Doom, the game Doom, but it was inside the Microsoft Word product.
Mm-hmm.
In Internet Explorer version 4, you did a series of keystrokes and you grabbed the blue globe in the About section, drug it to the side, and it would show you some things. So there's Easter eggs all over the place. And so you say, well, how can that happen? It's because when you have 2 lines of code, you can't hide much inside of it. But when you have 2 billion lines of code, you can hide many things inside of it. Many things. So as our software gets bigger and bigger and bigger, because it does more for us, there's more possibility of hiding software programs inside of other programs. So you draw the parallel of that between computers, which are designed after us. Computers have input, keyboard, mouse, plug in things to them, etc. We have input. We have eyes, ears, taste, sense, smell, touch, all of these things. So we have input. And computers have output. We have output.
Right.
So the parallels are unbelievable between computers and us. And you think about the number of billions of lines of code in our mind, which makes us eat, sleep, breathe, heal, digest. All these are built in, right? You don't think about those. But the other programs we have are speech, walking, riding a bicycle, driving a car. All these things that you learn throughout your life are programs. just like computer programs. So what you see is that we have all of this capability to have these add-on programs. So there's still space in our brains to always learn. So therefore, there's space to always store additional information or other programs.
Yep,
And
just like a
all
hard
it
drive.
takes is a trigger.
Yeah.
All it takes is a trigger. Now, there's two things in human memory that triggers memories that is never, time has no meaning on. So there's no meaning for time when it comes to scent or visual.
Okay.
So if you had an experience and you had a certain scent that you smelled, if you 20 years later smelled that same smell, you'd have that same memory. Same thing with visual cues. You can say, I've been here before. I know that this looks very similar to me. And all the memories are going to come flooding back into your brain about where you are and all the memories that are associated with it. You might have not even remembered. You might have forgotten them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's triggers. And in
Right.
the Manchurian Candidate, they use triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And with Easter eggs, it's a fun thing that happens. But in Manchurian Candidate, it's more of a nefarious and not very nice things that happen, right?
Right.
So how do you discover the Easter eggs? In the similarity here is with an Easter egg, it's both hidden. Same thing with the Manchurian Candidate. It's harmless until it's activated.
Right.
The individual might not even know that it's there.
They didn't.
But activation discovery. Easter eggs are revealed through exploration and figuring things out. But the Manchurian Candidate was activated unknowingly by his consciousness.
Right.
And then there's also the surprise element to it. In an Easter egg, you're surprised by, oh, look at this, I found this, it's really cool. And you're happy about it. But a Manchurian Candidate, it's not the same thing. It's bad. You're surprised in not a good way.
Right.
You can draw parallels between these things and things that we already know about. So a movie like Manchurian Candidate highlights that we're a lot more similar and have more things in common with these shows that are telling us this is what can happen.
Yeah.
And that's what Manchurian Candidate does. It shows us this is what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
That's why Hollywood is very good at telling us what's possible. We might not know that it's possible because we haven't explored it yet.
Right.
Somebody knows that it's possible. Otherwise, would it be in the movie? You see,
Exactly.
They're just letting us know what's coming. That's all. That's all. So it's pretty fascinating when you watch these movies and keeping in mind, look at it from the big picture. Don't just look at it from the entertainment factor of the movie. Look at it from the big picture, the perspective of, hey, this is a possibility that this could happen. What could cause this to happen?
Right.
They in the movie, I can't remember if they use hypnosis, but that's just one of the tools to reach your subconscious.
Yep, they use hypnosis. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Yeah.
In computer programs, you can have what's called a Trojan. When you click accidentally a program which installs on your computer. And so you can have a Trojan which is sitting there waiting. And in computer terminology, we call these things logic bombs. A logic bomb is a virus that will sit and you'll never know that it's there until it's triggered by something.
Absolutely.
So the parallels are unbelievable. When we talk about security, we talk about steganography, which is hiding data inside of other data.
Right.
And so it's pretty fascinating when you look at that terminology and go, well, that's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it has.
You have you ever heard of a watermark where you go to an image when you're going to Google search?
Oh, yeah.
You see a
watermarks. Absolutely.
Steganography. They're hiding an image inside another image. They call it watermark for trademark, but it's still an image inside of another image.
Yep.
And if you actually look at it's called the ASCII characters, the hexadecimal characters, all the little characters are actually the zeros and the ones which create that picture. Then you see patterns and codes, and you can find things inside of those images.
Right.
So the parallels are unbelievable between computers and us.
True.
And the technology in us.
Yep.
And the predictability in us. And have you talked about the Minority Report yet?
Yeah, no. I was going to suggest that we do the Minority Report last because of
Yes,
how
'cause
the
that's the
parallel
scariest.
that is affecting us today
That's
and
the scariest
where we're
one.
going. That's a scary movie.
That's a scary movie. You
Yeah.
don't think it's entertainment. That's a scary movie.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's good. We're going to be talking about that one because
Absolutely.
when we
Absolutely.
start talking about the parallels between that and our current system and our current technology,
Hmm.
you're going to be kind of like, "Wow, this is
Yeah. And AI learning machines. Oh
oh
boy. Mm, good
crazy,
stuff.
good stuff, just real good."
So, Mike, let me ask you a question, man, as it relates to the movie. How does the idea of brainwashing manifest through social media and propaganda
Oh,
as it
if
relates to
you've
today?
ever watched, oh, this is a good one. If you've ever watched the movie, Netflix, a documentary called The Social Dilemma,
What's the name of it? Say it again.
yes,
Oh, yes,
the
yes, yes, yes. Social
Social
media. Yes,
Dilemma.
I've seen that. Yeah.
So this movie was created by some folks who were talking to all the founders of the social media movement, the people that
Hmm.
got pushed out, the ones that created for a good purpose. But then once it became monetized and they could make money on it, we have now it's called echo chambers. And
Right.
it's all about keeping your attention on something and the
Hmm.
clicks. You're going to click on things you like. So pretty soon, all you ever hear is that one opinion or that one philosophy or that one thought pattern, and that's all you think of, and you don't think of anything else, and anything
Right.
else that's not that you
Hmm.
hate and you're angry about, and you no longer can even consider that it could have a possible have some good to it, because now it's evil to you, because that's you don't see it as what you know.
Absolutely.
So that's how brainwashing social media will brainwash you into teaching you, showing you little tiny snippets of things you like, and then now
Hmm.
your feed is full of the things you like. If I talk to you about a doghouse, in 10 minutes, my phone is blowing up with all kinds of images of doghouses.
True.
So so whatever you think about,
Hmm.
you're going to be guided that direction. And that is actual brainwashing, because now it's going to guide you toward that thought pattern. And anything that's different than that thought pattern is going to just be alien to you. And you're going to really dehumanize it. And so
Yeah.
that is a form of brainwashing. When you dehumanize a differing opinion,
Hmm.
we had in history, it's always doomed to repeat itself. We talked about,
Always.
right? So you can talk about that back in Germany, most Germans, they were not Nazis. Most Germans weren't.
Hmm.
They were complacent
Right.
and they didn't fight against it. Well, this is what
Mm.
happens with our society. You see crazy ideas out there, and most people, they don't do anything about it. They don't stand up against those ideas. And
No.
since they don't, they go along with the
Right.
flow. And if you're not actively fighting against evil, if
Hmm.
you're not actively fighting against evil, then you are part of evil,
True.
whether you know it or not, whether you
Yep.
accept it or not. It's true,
Mm.
because either you're for it or you're against it. There
Yep.
is no,
There's no
well,
middle ground.
there's no middle ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back in the day when you watch TVs, the old tube TVs, if you got,
Hmm.
I used to do this as a kid. I get really close to the TV and you can see the individual little pixels, the
Hmm.
little, and then
And
you
static. Right.
can't
Yeah.
see the picture because it's only made up of these tiny little dots.
Hmm.
And then as you get further and further away, you can see the picture.
Right.
So life is like that. Life is very, very black and white.
Hmm.
And the reason I'm telling you is because if you're close enough to something, it is binary. It's either a yes or a no in
Ones and
anything in
zeros.
your life.
Yep.
The further away you are, it becomes gray, and you go, well, what if this? What if that? That means
Hmm.
you're not close enough to it to see that there's only yes or no in any decision you have to make.
Mm.
And so it's easy to brainwash you if you're looking at gray.
Right.
Well, in this situation, what about this? In this situation, what about that? You
Hmm.
know, and there's so many things you can apply that to, that if you're too close to it, they say you can't see the forest for the trees. But when you're close to it, you can say yes or no in anything. It's the
Mm.
further away you are, all you see is the forest. You don't know which direction to get through the forest because it's a forest. But if you're standing inside that forest next to those trees, you're not going to walk into a tree. You're walking straight ahead. You're going to walk around that tree. You're not going to walk into it.
Right.
So, that's the part where it's easy to brainwash. It's
Mm-hmm.
so easy to brainwash. And, we've seen on the media that there's only one major media source in the United States of America, and that is called the Associated Press.
Press.
The
Mm-hmm.
AP, they feed everybody their news.
Yeah.
So ask yourself this: who owns the AP?
Mm.
Oh, I bet
I
you guys.
know. I'm not going to say it over here. I know who owns it.
Hold on. We don't talk about things that get us in
Let's
trouble.
talk about that.
We ain't getting in trouble, but
Yeah.
remember that he who controls the media controls the narrative.
Correct.
So media is being consumed nowadays in platforms like this aren't as easily controlled, but the main media tries to discredit or smear any other source of news that's not their source of news.
Right.
So, you can see that it happens. And most of us are so caught up just trying to earn a living.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have time to think about these things. We're too busy just trying to survive.
Trying to survive.
I'm trying to make sure that I got enough gas in my car. I'm trying to make sure that my family's okay and they're safe and that I'm not going to get fired from my job that I've been working for 20 years. That's what people are thinking of.
True.
They don't have a lot of time to think about other things.
They really don't. Nope. Man, I think we got time. We're doing really well. So I'm gonna ask another question.
Hit me.
We cooking.
We cooking
like hot grease right now.
That's right.
Those parallels we just spoke of, can it be drawn between the film's portrayal of control and modern psychological manipulation techniques used in politics and advertising? You touched on that a little bit.
It's very, very easy. Thing is, it's so easy for the 10 corporations in control of all of the other corporations. When you look at that, and a CEO on this company was also involved in that company, and 10 companies down the road, when they have an agenda, they're going to permeate that agenda through all of what they are involved in. And so you're going to see that there's a slant and a thought process that's going to be mimicked from one company to another company. You don't think those companies are associated with each other, and you don't see that they belong together, but suddenly everybody's saying the same thing in one form or another. So that's a manipulation that causes everyone else to think, well, that must be the way it is because everybody's saying it.
Right.
There's a lot of things that happens with, I hear constantly that the water is coming up. The water is coming up. We're going to flood the coastal line. Well, if the coastline was going to flood within a certain period of time, do you think that banks would loan people money to build on the coast? Would they insure the buildings that are built on the coast? They wouldn't, would they? They wouldn't even loan any money to allow you to build on the coast. True. And then you look back at the pictures from the early 1800s and the 1900s of a certain coastal seascapes, and guess what? The water's the same today as it was then. But yet we're all told the water's coming up, the water's coming up. So there's books out there that are created way back in the day that talk about manipulation. And there's there's a book called Iron Mountain. And in order for a population to be easily controlled, they have to have a common enemy. Whether it be a war or a crisis of one form or another. And if the crisis is big enough, we all are going to act as we're told. And the latest example of a crisis that we all acted like we were told to was during COVID.
True.
We all thought that it was going to just kill the whole population, and we were told all these terrible things, and we had to stay home, and we couldn't do this, and we couldn't do that, and we were absolutely controlled like peasants. And once it's all said and done and over with, and you look at the reality and the truth of what it really was, it was no worse than a common standard seasonal flu. That's all it was. And then when it comes to brass tacks, that's all it was. But yet we took experimental vaccinations multiple times, which caused young children 18 years old to die from heart attacks.
Oh, wow.
People drop dead. Unexplained clots that the folks that are out there doing the embalming, takers are finding these massive clots through people's bodies that they used to be able to drain blood in 2 or 3 pokes. Now it's taking 17 or 18 pokes to get the blood all drained out because these massive clots. And these are all people that have been vaccinated. So, you think about this stuff. And you know what? I believe certain vaccinations are extremely important. But when you have experimental stuff that's going to hit you, that's a little freaky.
Yeah.
But yet we all did it. We felt it. We stepped right up in line and didn't argue it. And did anybody really argue against it? And the moment they did, what did you see happen? They were labeled crazy. They were labeled crazy. Right? And therefore, everybody pointed up and said, you're crazy. But they all followed right down lockstep, baby, one right after the other, hand in hand, on the pathway to hell, enjoying every minute of it, thinking they're going to heaven. So that's what happens. That was a mass psychological manipulation, that entire event. And now we're waiting for the next one to come.
They've already been telling us about it.
They've already been telling us back when they started talking about COVID-1. They were talking about this is going to happen again.
Yeah.
Be ready.
2025. They even gave you a year.
Tell us when.
Yeah.
And
COVID
was what? 19. What does that mean? It was variation number 19.
Number 19.
If you have any brains at all, even a half of a brain cell left in your head, you think there was version 1 through 18?
Of course.
So how's it make it any different than the rest? But yet we fell for it, hook, line, and sinker.
Hook, line, and sinker.
And the repercussions of that still are being felt today.
We still suffering from the effects of it.
Yeah.
The port closures
I love that one.
Yeah, that's a great topic.
It's also right on the heels of Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile all losing their networks for 6 hours on Friday. Imagine that. Nobody's talking about that, are they?
No, nobody's talking about that.
A whisper in the media at all about how could that happen? Not just Verizon. They weren't the only one hit.
Yeah. It was a one-liner, and then it was done.
And nobody will talk about it ever again.
Yeah.
And think about what was disturbed during that.
Oh yeah, loss of business. Yeah, all types of stuff. Yeah, emergency.
Yep. Lots of things. So you look at these things, and you see what's going on, and if we're not told to think about it, we don't. Because we're being played like peasants. We are peasants. That's all we are. And you know what? Let me tell you something. I'll tell you something. A peasant is worse than a slave. I'm going to tell you why. Because a slave at least knows he's a slave. And a peasant doesn't know. They think they're free. But a peasant is lower than a slave. When it comes to the hierarchy of life, you're better being a slave, and you're going to be treated better than if you're a peasant.
Wow.
And you never think about that. Nobody talks about that, but that's a reality. I'd rather be a slave. At least I know where I stand.
That's a harsh reality.
Harsh reality.
Yeah.
But being a peasant, you're a sucker for everything.
Man, all these distractions of keeping people away from the real things that are important.
And so you look at the Manchurian Candidate and go, how could that happen? It's already happening. All of us.
It's already happening. Yep.
All of us. In one form or another. Maybe it might not be as drastic as what you see in the movie, but guess what? It's still that same thing.
Yeah.
Same thing happening.
Still
we're programmed. We hear certain noises. We're programmed to start to go into freak out mode. We're already programmed. Pavlov's dog. Ring the bell, feed the dog. Ring the bell, feed the dog. Stop feeding the dog, ring the bell. Dog's now salivating because he thinks he's going to get fed. That's where we are.
Man.
And with the dumbing down of our society, where our children don't even have the ability to do critical thinking because they're in echo chambers. And if you're in an echo chamber, you cannot critically think because a critical thinker asks questions about everything.
Every aspect.
How many people do you know that critically think?
Not many.
They're becoming fewer and fewer in the world because It's
Mhm.
programmed out of us. We are designed and trained to be lowly peasants.
The misinformation propaganda operation is
Oh, to
real.
use the term misinformation,
Yeah. Hmm.
just because it's a differing opinion doesn't mean it's wrong. It's just different. But yet
Right.
it's labeled as misinformation. So therefore you think it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily wrong. It's just a different opinion.
Yeah.
You and I can see the same thing happen from two perspectives. I have an opinion happen this way. You have an opinion happen
Mhm.
that way. Does it make me right? Does it make me wrong? No, I just looked at it differently than you did.
Right.
If you and I are sitting at a table and I look at you, I see what's happening behind you. You see what's happening behind me.
Mhm.
Therefore, we're going to have differing opinions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
yet you're taught to only accept one, what you're told to accept. That's sad.
Mhm.
That's sad. You know, I guess
But you know what
I
I
just
find, Mike?
can't.
I find in my when I'm doing my research, I find that there's a lot of people out there that can't differentiate the real from the fake, or the
Because there's
truth
so much.
or the false.
Right.
It's
It's
unbelievable.
too
It's
much
unbelievable.
static. There's too much
Yeah.
static. If there's so much noise, look, if I'm in
Mhm.
a crowded room and everybody's talking at the same time, you can't hear anything.
You can't hear
And
anything. Right.
that's what's happening. You can't hear
Yeah.
anything. You can't even slow down enough to try to make sense of it because there's too much information. It's called TMI, too much information. And it's just overload. And in
Yeah.
computer terminology, we call that a DDoS. It's called distributed denial of service.
Hmm.
So if you are wanting to speak and I don't want anyone to hear you, I have 1,000 people talking at the same time you're talking and no one hears you.
Right.
That's
Which
just
is
that's
silence.
distributed.
Yep.
Now, if you're speaking and I yell louder than you, that's a
Mhm.
denial of service. But if 100 people are yelling and you don't, and you're trying to talk, then that's distributed denial of service. So a lot of the types of activities that occur in our world are very much talked about in computers and security. We talk about this stuff,
Right.
teach it. And it's funny because you can follow the game plan.
Oh yeah. You can follow the script.
How do you attack a network? You take that same thought process. Oh, look at us. Yeah, we must have been saying bad things. You can talk about how to attack a network, and there's actually flow charts on how to do that and apply
Mhm.
that same type of technology to how to attack a human, how to attack someone's thought process. You can apply the same tools that we teach in computer security and apply it to people, and it works.
And it works.
It works.
Yep. Effortlessly.
Oh,
Hmm.
seamless.
Yeah.
Because you know why? We're peasants.
Mm-mm-mm. Man,
Remember, if you're not a peasant, you have to be careful what you say because you will be silenced.
you will be silenced.
Yeah,
They
so you have,
silence billionaires. It doesn't
yeah,
matter.
that's why there's
Yeah.
certain subjects we won't talk about.
We're not.
Nope.
Oh man. Well, thank you, sir, again.
Always
And
fun.
we're gonna give a big hand to Big Mike per usual. And I want everybody to tune in to next week on Sunday. We're going to be talking about the movie Total Recall because now
Ooh.
we're diving in and showing the parallels of how technology is affecting society. And then we're going to close out with the movie man,
The
what was
Minority Report.
Yes, Minority Report. Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. We're gonna close out the series one with Minority Report. Man, it's gonna be an awesome time. Lots of information to get out to you guys. I want you to tune in. Please tune in every Tuesday and Sunday night, 9 p.m. or a little bit later, depending. Remember, like, share, subscribe. Tell your people we got a great show. Like, share, subscribe. And I'm the final boss. That's Big Mike. And that's our show for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Go finish watching the debate. And we will see you on Sunday. Boom.